Hey, it's me, Raika. Today we're going to have a look at the wishlist tier list for early, middle, and late game players. So, why is the wishlist such a powerful feature in the game? It allows you to target summon for one or multiple specific heroes. So, let's say you have diamonds, faction scrolls, or normal summoning scrolls. You can summon for any of these specific heroes that you have listed in your wish list. So let's say you have a faction scroll and it's Lightbearer Day today. Then you'll be able to summon for any of these 5 heroes that you have selected. And the same is true for your normal scroll. However, it allows you to summon for any of these heroes listed below over here. So let's have a look at the tier list. So I'm not going to add any awakened heroes in this tier list as they require their own specific resource in order to be summoned. So let's begin with the early Lightbearer heroes. So at the beginning over here, we have Scarlet. This is one of the most powerful Lightbearer heroes currently available. Now this hero is extremely effective when fighting bosses such as Riz, Soren, and any boss game mode currently available. Now this hero focuses on the single target, however she's extensively used in both campaign and arena as well. Now the next 2 heroes is Rowan and Rosaline. Now these 2 heroes' primary focus is to funnel all of their energy into one specific hero. In this cases it can be Scarlet, where Scarlet deals most of her damage with her ultimate, and these 2 heroes, being Rowan and Rosaline, can constantly keep funneling all of their energy into Scarlet over here. The next hero over here we have is Palmer. This is a recently added hero that is currently available, and he provides a massive amount of buffs. However, he's mainly used in boss game modes where he provides a substantial amount of various stats for your damage dealers such as Scarlet and various other heroes. Now the next hero over here is Estrada. Now Estrada's primary focus is the buffs that she provides for your allies. This is either through her damage amplification and her damage reduction that she applies to your allies if she has survived for a long enough period. So let's have a look at the mid Lightbearer heroes. So over here we begin with Rain and Henrik. Now Rain over here is mainly used for bossing, where she provides a buff for your teammates where they can deal more damage to the enemy hero. Now, in addition to this, she also provides various other secondary stats such as a couple of energy and various other stats to boost up your allies' damage. The next hero over here we have is Henrik. Now, Henrik is used mainly as an interrupter. However, his secondary purpose is to protect a backline allied hero. So let's say we have these 3 backline heroes. Sonia, we have Gwyneth, and we have Cecilia over here. Now what happens if one of these heroes suffer fatal damage? Henrik will come to their aid, immune that damage for them, and protect them for a couple of seconds. Now the backline heroes over here are up to your own personal preference. However, these are the heroes that I would recommend. Being Sonia over here, this is an extremely powerful tank, and if you invest in her, she can also become an extremely effective damage dealer in a multiple area of game modes. Now the next hero over here is Gwyneth. Now Gwyneth's special purpose is she's an extremely powerful ranged hero where she can essentially one-shot multiple enemy ranged heroes. So let's say there's a couple of enemies standing on the back line and they do not move from their position. Gwyneth is able to hit each and every single one of them multiple times with the arrows that she fires from her abilities. The next hero over here is Cecilia. Now this hero is used to debuff bosses to reduce the amount of incoming damage that your allies may face. So let's say you've built all of these heroes I've currently mentioned. Now, in order to transition into the late game, I would recommend giving your primary or your early Lightbearer heroes a couple of stars. The reason for this is so that you can start engraving into them. So as we can see here, my Scarlet, Rosaline, and Estrada is currently engraved, and this increases their effectiveness, such as Rosaline can provide more stats to the hero that she's currently following, and Estrada over here can survive for longer periods of time. Once you have gotten a couple of stars, I would also recommend getting your Scarlet over here to 5-star, as you can maximize the amount of damage that she does to any enemy in the game. So let's have a look at the Maulers early game tier list. So we start off with Brutus over here. Now this hero is extremely powerful even if you have a single copy of this hero. The reason why, when he procs his ability Immunity Shield for a couple of seconds, this will essentially allow him to negate all damage that is coming into Brutus. So if you have an extremely powerful damage dealer on the backline, Brutus will be able to protect that ally hero for a significant period of time. Now in my case, I have him Ascended, 20 signature item and 3 furniture. This will further extend his survivability and increase the duration of his Immunity Shield. The next hero on this list is Kren. Now this is a powerhouse in terms of the amount of damage that this hero can do. Even at extremely high level deficits, 200 and above, this hero is extremely effective at dealing consistent damage to enemies. Now the one drawback to him is that the enemies need to be in their enemy half. So if you can group up enemies in their half of the battlefield, essentially you deal massive amounts of damage to them. So if you have any hero that can push them back or distract their enemies, you will be able to do a massive amount of damage. Now he's used in Campaign, Mauler Tower, Curstrom, and many other game modes currently available. Now to help out Kren over here, we have Scrag. Now Scrag is mainly used for invade-based teams. However, you can use Scrag to benefit Kren over here to essentially push the enemies back into their own enemy half. In addition to this, you can use multiple invade-based teams because of the buffs that Scrag can provide, as he provides a massive amount of damage reduction, attack rating increase, and energy regen for your allied heroes who are currently invading in the enemy half. So the next allied hero is Skriel. Now the reason why you bought him is for the damage. However, his main purpose is to be placed in the Eron 5 pool. Now when you have him Ascended and you've unlocked his 3 furniture, this allows one of the best endgame campaign pushing teams to be extremely effective, where you can essentially push the top enemy hero being over here to the middle and the bottom enemy hero to the middle as well. And what this allows you is to pull all 5 enemies with the Eron 5 pull, where you can push in level deficits of 200 and above. So let's begin with the next hero, called Anasta. Now Anasta over here is a massive damage dealer as well, and she also is in a variety of game modes such as Mauler Tower, Curstrom, and many other game modes as well. However, she's mainly used for her control and her buffs that she can provide for her teammates. In addition to this, if you invest in her, such as her signature item, furniture, and engravings, she can also become a carry. This is extremely important, especially when you're trying to diversify your teams in Mauler Tower, where you're fighting 2, 3, or even more teams for these respective multi-stage fights. So let's have a look at the mid-Maulers tier list. So we begin with Nemesu. Now the reason why I have Nemesu over here is to provide a bit of support for your allied heroes. As in the early game tier list, you don't have any healers or supports that can allow you to push much further in the Mauler King's Tower. However, Nemesu also has a secondary role, and this is to provide haste for one specific ally. So let's say you have an extremely powerful Mauler hero, either being Awakened Brutus, Kren, Anasta, or any damage dealer that requires a massive amount of haste in order to generate more energy. Nemesu over here will give them that specific buff, and because it lasts for such a long period of time, that damage dealer will be able to generate energy faster, use their abilities quicker, and essentially deal more damage to the enemies so you can be victorious in your specific game mode. Now the next couple of heroes, being Granite, Warwick, Antandra, and Titus, are more of utility based heroes. So let's begin with Granite over here. Once you've unlocked him to 30 signature item, this will give you a special ability where when Granite dies, he will be able to stun enemies for an extended period of time. Now, this is extremely effective, especially when you're fighting burst enemy heroes or you're fighting at a substantial level deficit where you can essentially control 3 enemies that are currently in front of him. So let's have a look at the next hero, Warwick over here. Now, his main purpose is to provide a debuff on the enemy target, and this is mainly used on boss enemy heroes. Now, he'll provide a debuff where he essentially will allow your teammates to inflict more damage on the enemy target. Now we have another carry hero called Entendre. Now, Entendre, when invested, 30 signature item 9 furniture, and if you'd like to engraver as well, will allow you to get an additional carry in game modes such as Mauler Tower. Now, the next hero over here we have is Titus. Now, Titus's main purpose is to invade and to distract enemies. So if he's placed on the front line or back line, doesn't really matter, he will run into the enemies and essentially fear them for a couple of seconds. So when you pair this hero up with a hero such as Crane over here, this will essentially buy you a bit of time. So for late game, what do I recommend? I recommend investing in carry heroes such as Crane and Nasta, Entendre, give them a couple of stars. So once again, you can engrave them. So let's have a look at the wildest tier list. So as we can see over here, we have Iron, Laika, Mishka, Raku, and Navanthi. Now, the main hero that you want out of here is Iron. The reason why is he's used, once again, in a wide variety of game modes. However, he's extremely effective at fighting enemies at level 200 and plus in campaign, Wilder Tower, and various other game modes currently available. Now, the next hero over here is Laika. Now, Laika is extremely effective even at a single elite copy. The reason for this is because of the haste that she provides and the accuracy that she provides for your teammates. Now, she's used in campaign, in the Thorin Cheese, in the Iron 5 pool, in the Wilder Tower, and various other gamers. Now, the next hero over here we have is Mishka over here. Now, Mishka, once you have her invested, such as I do, with 30 signature item 9 furniture and 60 engravings, this will give her more control and utility on the battlefield. Now, the next hero over here we have is Raku. Now, he's extremely effective at dealing damage to single target enemies. However, he becomes even more effective if your allied heroes can control the enemy team. So if you, for example, place Raku over here in the Mihira charm-based team, Raku will be able to deal massive amounts of damage. However, you'll need to invest in him to the necessary level, such as mine over here. However, you can even take this further by improving his engravings. Now, the next hero over here is a support. I would recommend getting Navanthi over here. The reason why is she provides a significant amount of healing, and in some cases, even more healing than Nomura, Asta, or even Saurus. And in addition to this, she also provides other secondary stats which can greatly help your allies to survive and deal more damage to their enemy heroes. So let's have a look at the mid-wilders tier list. These two heroes that we currently have available, being Lawson and Nomura over here, are mainly used for their utility. Now, Lawson over here is used for his link-based ability, where if an enemy is placed on the front line or in a certain position, so let's say Nomura over here is placed in this position over here, Lawson will link the current ally being Nomura and the furthest enemy hero. So what this does, this allows you to deal splash damage or AoE damage to multiple enemies through the entire duration of battle. So even if Lawson dies, immediately as soon as he walks onto the battle, this link will be permanent and will be for the entire duration of the battle. And he's used in campaign both for Lucretia and Thorin Cheese. Now, the next hero over here we have is Nomura. Now, she is mainly used for her charm ability. So as we can see, I have a 9 furniture unlocked. And what this does, any enemy hero that gets very close to Nomura will be immediately charmed. So let's say you have an enemy Lawson, and this Lawson is placed directly in front of Nomura. Nomura will charm the enemy Lawson and he will link his own allied heroes, allowing you to deal even more damage to the enemy heroes. Now, the next hero over here is Saurus. Now, the reason why Saurus is on this tier list over here is because of his healing and the damage he can do to the enemy heroes. Now the next hero over here we have is Yorin. Now this hero once again is a newly released hero. However, his main purpose is for his burst single target damage. Similar to Awakened Thane, Yorin over here will immediately teleport at the beginning of the battle to the enemy hero, and he will consistently deal damage and weaken them. Now, if you have more investment in him, such as his engravings, furniture, and signature item, in some cases he can even one-shot the enemy hero, similar to Awakened Thane. Now, the next hero we have on this list is Graveborn. Now, Graveborn is used for his distraction and for his stun ability. Now, as soon as he walks onto the battle, he'll immediately jump all the way into the enemy lines, and he will stun the enemies and he will force them or taunt them to attack himself. So for your late game wildest tier list, all you need to do is simply add or put back your carry damage dealers from your tier list, such as Iron, Laika, Mishka, or Raku. And so you can get a couple of stars on them, so you can start engraving and powering up these heroes. So let's have a look at the tier list from the Graveborn faction. So this faction over here, being the Graveborns, is one of the strongest factions currently available. Now, most of these Graveborn heroes are used in multiple and in some cases 3 or more game modes currently available. So let's begin over here with Daemon over here. Now, this is one of the best early game carries currently available. Essentially, from chapter 1 to 30 and above, he will be your only damage dealer, and essentially he can one-shot all the enemies by himself. Now, any investment into him makes him an even more powerful damage dealer. However, he does start to struggle at level deficits 150 and above. However, if you invest into his signature item, furniture, and engravings, he can be more effective at even further stages in the game. So let's have a look at the next 2 heroes, being Odin and Pharao over here. Now, these 2 heroes are mainly used for their control aspect. However, Odin over here can become your main damage dealer, especially when you're fighting at level 200 and above level deficits. So this control he provides by removing all of the enemy's energy, or simply stopping the enemy from regenerating any energy at all. Or another extremely important thing that Odin does is grouping up of enemies. So what he can do is essentially he can stack all 5 enemies on a single area. So if you have damage dealers such as Daemon or Grazul, this allows him to hit multiple enemies with a single ability. So the next hero over here is Pharao. Now, he is mainly used for his interrupt or fear based ability. So as soon as he walks onto the battlefield, he will fear a couple of enemies. This will essentially interrupt their abilities, buying your allies a bit of time, such as Daemon, Odin, or Grazul, so they can start building up their energy and start using their abilities. A bit of investment gives him an additional ability called reducing the enemy's healing. Now, when you pair this up with any of these heroes, essentially the enemies will have an extremely difficult time healing their allies, and in addition to this, he'll slowly be leeching or removing energy from them at small increments at a time. So let's have a look at the next hero over here, called Silas. Now, Silas's main purpose is for his healing. However, his secondary ability is through his immunity shield. So if you pair Silas over here with a damage dealer such as Daemon, when Silas uses his ultimate on Daemon, he'll give Daemon an immunity for a couple of seconds. So if Daemon is placed on the front row and Silas uses his immunity on Daemon over here, Daemon will be immune to all damage for a couple of seconds in the battle. In addition, Silas has a similar ability to Pharao where he can reduce the enemy's healing. Now, if you pair these 2 heroes, being Pharao and Silas together, the enemy will have 0 healing. So no matter how hard the enemy tries to heal themselves, they will not be able to get any hit points at all. Now, the next hero over here is Grazul. Once you start investing into him, he starts becoming the main damage dealer in your teams. The reason why is over time, he will steal the enemy's stats, such as their attack, defense, and various other stats for himself. where Grizzle can supercharge his minions, and his minions start dealing massive amounts of damage because Grizzle summons multiple of these minions every single time he uses his ultimate or through his signature item ability. So let's have a look at the mid-game Graveborn tier list. So let's begin with Thorin over here. Now this hero is extremely powerful at pushing in-game campaign pushing teams. He is the best at pushing high level deficits that can range from 200 to even 300 and above level deficits. Now you simply need to invest into his signature item and furniture. However, once you have done so, you can easily one-shot any enemy team that you come across. Now the next four heroes over here are mainly used for their utility. So over here we have Hodgkin over here. Now he's mainly used for his attack and defense boost. Now he's used in various boss damage teams where you can boost up the damage and defense survivability of your allied damage dealer. Now the next two heroes over here can easily work at elite copies of both of them, Kalthar and Nara over here. Now what these heroes do, they will displace their enemies and they will essentially move them to a certain location. So let's say you have a ranged enemy hero. Let's say you have an Odin over here standing on the other side. Now Thorin cannot reach Odin from his current position. However, Nara over here will bring this Odin close to Thorin so that Thorin can easily one-shot all the enemies with his ultimate. Now the same is true with Kalthar over here. Now what Kalthar will do is he'll swap the position of the opposite or enemy hero. So let's say there is an enemy ranged hero. Now this enemy hero is too far for Thorin to cheese. So Kalthar will simply swap this specific enemy and essentially bring this ranged enemy hero closer to Thorin. So the next hero over here is Dazara. Now she's mainly used for her extremely powerful support capabilities. However, she's mainly used for the debuff that she provides where the enemies cannot gain any of their buffs from their allied heroes. This is extremely effective when the enemies have a large amount of haste, attack, defense buffs that they can provide for themselves, and essentially Desire will strip them or not allow them to gain any of these abilities while providing a massive amount of healing and support for your allied heroes. So let's say you have gotten all of these heroes to Ascended, or you've gotten your two elite copies of both Kalthar and Nara over here. Now you can swap these two heroes out for Tresnor and for Azul. Now these two heroes are very effective, especially in a campaign and in a PvP and also in the Graveborn Tower. However, they require a significant amount of investment. So Tresnor over here requires these 30 signature item, 9 furniture, and 60 engravings. What do I recommend for the late game for the Graveborn faction? I recommend getting stars on all of these heroes over here, being Daemon, Odin, Pharrell, Silas, and Grizzle, as they highly benefit from those additional stats in both their HP, attack, and defense. In addition to this, you can start engraving all of these heroes, as in most cases they will become your main damage dealers in various game modes currently available.